Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So Deadpool is just crushing X-Men Apocalypse at the box office. So this is going to be my Deadpool kills the X-Men video. And I'll explain where Deadpool crosses over with the X-Men in the comics. So no surprise, Deadpool is the #1 X-Men movie of all time, both worldwide and domestic. And when I say domestic, I'm talking about the United States domestic box office. But now a lot of people are wondering why Fox isn't leveraging Deadpool inside their X-Men movies. And Bryan Singer kind of explained that earlier this year after Deadpool blew up and everybody loved it. He just said that the tone of X-Men Apocalypse is so serious, Deadpool's so silly, they just didn't mix really well. And he's not wrong. You couldn't put that version of Deadpool in this version of X-Men Apocalypse and have it make any sense. He would just completely sideline the film. It'd be an even bigger mess than it already is. And if you haven't seen my X-Men Apocalypse video, there are a bunch of problems with the film. Mostly that they just tried to stuff too many things into it, and the script wasn't quite ready. They needed a little bit more work on the story, and the stakes are just a little too high. Deadpool, on the other hand, just kept things really small, really condensed, and it actually helped the film a lot. Like, it just doesn't get pulled in a million different directions like this X-Men movie did. But one of the other big reasons why Deadpool hits so hard with audiences is because superhero films in general have gotten to a more mature state. So we're at the point of Civil War in Captain America, where it becomes this film about deconstruction, the deconstruction of superheroes. And that's kind of what the Deadpool character has been turned into in the last 10 to 15 years. Originally, he was just created to be Spider-Man with swords. Like, he looks like Spider-Man, but he acts like Wolverine. He has a bunch of swords. So then as more writers came on, he started to break the fourth wall more and more, and they started to use him in a more meta way. So it's really easy to use the character in movies to take the piss out of the superhero genre. Like, he pokes fun at the X-Men continuity problems. They can't really do that in the X-Men Apocalypse film in the same way. But I think what's going to happen is when they get to X-Force, they'll try that a little bit more. So you'll see a balance of X-Men film and Deadpool film. So that is my prediction for the very first Deadpool official crossover in the movies with X-Men. Now, technically, this is an X-Men crossover anyway, because there's a couple X-Men characters in it. But we're really talking crossover between A-list characters. So you have Deadpool crossing over with Professor X or something like that. Deadpool crossing over with the X-Men in the comics, though. He's crossed over with the X-Men characters a lot, but usually in the spin-off titles. He hasn't appeared a lot in Uncanny X-Men or the proper X-Men comics. So when you see him pop up in the comics, it's usually like in Wolverine's comics, it's in Cable and Deadpool. He crosses over with them in his own comic. The first real crossover with Deadpool in the X-Men team, like the main X-Men team, was in his own title, Deadpool Volume 2, number 16 in 2009. So that's just a little under 20 years after the character was created. That's how long it took for him to really cross over with the X-Men. So if you never read that story, it's basically Deadpool getting tired of working by himself. He decides he's good enough to be part of the X-Men, but the X-Men ain't having it. Cyclops is like, no deal, no sale, we're not taking you. The title of this video, Deadpool Kills the X-Men, and anytime you hear me reference Deadpool Kills XX, it's usually taken from Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, which was this big special comic book event, but it was just a case where Deadpool goes to an insane asylum to try and cure his insanity, to clear up the voices in his head, but the person treating him is a supervillain, and it winds up backfiring. The voices in his head tell him he needs to kill everyone, so thus, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. One of the only problems with Deadpool being rated R and being what it is, I mean, it's so amazing, I'm so happy that it is what it is, but one of the problems with that is that China won't let the film into the country, which means there's more than 1 billion people that the movie doesn't have access to, so there's a lot of money that it's leaving on the table, which is why a lot of films get toned down a little bit. Michael Bay's films are a good example of films that are China-friendly. There's not a lot of talking, and there's a lot of bloodless CG action. So that's typically what you see when you look at children's programming. There is action, but there's not a lot of blood, there's not a lot of killing. So China is like the last great frontier for movies. So Deadpool could have earned way more money if they would have toned the film down, but then that probably would have made the film less popular. It wouldn't have been as awesome as a film. So there are certain times when it's better that a film is rated R like this. Like Deadpool is perfect rated R. So I give the producers and Ryan Reynolds a high five for not chasing that China box office in the way other big films do. And the only other real consequence of that is that they have to keep the budget of the movie down. So that's the reason you see a lot of $150 million movies stay at PG-13, so that they can get into China and get like an extra $100 million on their box office. But here's the thing, even though X-Men Apocalypse made it into China, I still think that Deadpool is going to wind up making more money, especially when you consider home video sales, which isn't really something important to go into, but that's like a whole other revenue stream for a movie. So sometimes movies don't make a ton of money at the box office, but they do really well on home video. So Deadpool's going to walk away whistling as the clear winner here. But don't automatically assume that because of that, they're going to shove Deadpool into every single X-Men film. I do think that the films would benefit from Deadpool, but I think X-Force is probably a better match for him because they can make that a little more hardcore. I think they want the main X-Men films to be traditional family fare, so something that you would be able to take an 8-year-old kid to. There were a lot of really funny stories about people that took like really little kids to Deadpool. In most of those funny stories, it's the parents that freak out, not the kids. Like the kids might be a little confused about some of the action. The parents just become horrified. But I just wish I could have been next to some young family who didn't realize that Deadpool was going to get pegged by Copycat in the film. And if you don't know what that is, that's just the scene where she does him in the butt with a strap on. There is no universe where someone is going to get pegged in one of these main X-Men films. But that's okay. That's what we have the Deadpool movies for. So let me know in the comments, do you think that X-Men Apocalypse will ever earn more money than Deadpool at the box office? And do you have any funny stories about families that were in the theater with you watching the movie? Like a parent who brought their kids to the movie because it's a comic book movie without really realizing why it was rated R. Yay for kids, yay for R-rated comic book movies. What's going to happen next though, I got to see an early screening of Warcraft. It was a lot of fun. You'll probably have a lot of fun at it, especially if you played the game. I'll do a non-spoilery review next, and then I'll post my Easter egg video later this week, because it's not going to be out in the US for a couple more days. So everybody enjoy your chimichangas while you wait for me to post that next video. You can click here for all my Deadpool Easter eggs if you haven't seen that yet. And you can click here to learn all about Superman actually coming onto the DC TV shows, like a real deal Superman. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.